Hello, and welcome to the AI First Show. This is the show where we talk about all things AI, the latest news, models, gossip, all the good stuff. Most importantly, how to use AI to get real work done. My name is Stephen Barr. My co-host, Leonardo Gonzalez. We're at the Trilogy AI Center of Excellence. Very excited for today's episode. There's a lot to cover. Leonardo, we're going to try and do this rapid fire like last time, cover a lot of news. I think there's probably going to be models released while we're talking, so it's going to be obsolete by the time we ship this anyway. But we're going to do the best we can. How are you doing?
I'm hanging in there, pulling some late nights, working on interesting things.
And plus, baby LLM to keep you busy.
Yeah,
I'm sure. All right. Well, let's jump into the first topic. This is AutoSearch. This was a repository that Karpathy put up, and it was a really neat idea. So basically what he's saying is he made a loop for a very small local GPT inspired by NanoChat to essentially iterate on itself and learn how to improve itself. And it went really well. I think, this is pretty cool to see this repository because you can see the whole thing. It's designed to be run locally. There's some pretty cool ideas baked into here. Here's the main loop. It says the agent modifies the code, trains for 5 minutes, checks if the results are improved, keeps or discards, and repeat, and then keeps a log. Here we go. The core idea is that you're not touching any of the Python files like you normally would as a researcher. You are writing program MD markdown files that provide context to the agents and set up your autonomous research org. So it's pretty cool. The PNG is showing how this iterative researcher found parameterizations of the model that made it improve over time. I actually really enjoyed some of the discussion back in the NanoChat repository. So what they're doing, they're tracking this time to GPT-2. So this is time on an 8X H100 GPU node to get to a model of GPT-2-like characteristics. And his auto research, round one, made it in 1.8 hours. Starting from fundamentals, 1.8 hours for $48. And I like this note that he put here. In 2019, it cost $43,000. But due to many advances in 7 years across the stack, we can do this so much faster and for well below $100 an hour. Anyway, what has been the impact of auto research? I think there's been a lot of cool discussion here.
There's a lot of buzz on nano research. One of the interesting premises is the concept of auto ML, where you have AI creating AI. And that's kind of the exciting thing behind this is not just autonomous engineering, but autonomous research. That's not actually what's happening in this use case though, and that's part of like what the next article covers, the next point. This is really just kind of optimization of a certain thing numerically. It's figuring out how to do one thing better. But it is automating a lot of work that highly sophisticated people would normally need to be involved and spend a lot of time doing. So the amount of value delivered here in terms of how many hours saved of people that are whose time is highly valuable. Like I don't imagine what Karpathy's hourly rate would be. That's the kind of thing you can imagine, is providing enormous value. It kind of feels like just a glorified Ralph Wiggum loop. You're just iterating and trying to improve something over and over. And the value of just constantly iterating on something.
I mean, I do think it's more than just like trying random numbers and seeing what sticks, because they're actually, he gave a list of some neat things about, tuning the weight decay schedule. Here we go. Tuning the attention mechanism was too conservative. Turning up the regularization. It's cool stuff that it's doing.
Yeah.
I like what he said here is that all LLM frontier labs will do this. It's the final boss battle. It's a lot more complex at scale, but it's what he called just engineering. And I like the idea. What he said here is that the ideas that it found applied to larger models. And so his
Yeah.
idea was that
That's cool.
we could do the same thing with frontier models, proving out this methodology not on multi-million-dollar training sessions, on multi-dollar bill training sessions, and then scaling it up. I want to pull up the article that you sent, the latent space one. Is this research or not? Putting this one up here. This is interesting. What did you think of this article, the latent space article here on auto research, sparks of recursive self-improvement?
Well, again, it's the auto ML moment. I think that's part of the reason this has generated a lot of buzz and has a lot of potential, is looking at the infinite recursion and looking at where, yeah, there can be novel ideas or interesting ideas generated, but it is ultimately an engineering process of just exploring and iterating and trying and observing. I'm kind of 50-50 on this. I feel like it is something exciting. It is something groundbreaking in a certain sense, but it's also scoped and maybe limited in the promise that people are trying to say, like, oh, we're going to just automate now everything that is AI research, and things are going to hyperbole explode in capacity, because now we're not limited to humans creating AI. Now AI can create AI. I think that's happening to a degree. It has been happening for a while. We'll see how much of an inflection point this is along that curve. But it is interesting to see it unfold.
I'm thinking about Arnold Schwarzenegger as the good Terminator in Terminator 2 in the station wagon, explaining to Sarah Connor, Skynet begins to learn at a geometric rate. And that's the exponential launch where, okay, this becomes self-aware. And there was the Judgment Day when it becomes self-aware at this date. It improved itself. Yes, exactly. The Ray Kurzweil singularity, that as soon as we have self-improvement, it's just going to take off to the moon. And I think that's maybe there's something to that, but there's also a lot of engineering that has to go.
So I would say that is the subtext, and that is the reason why there's excitement around this. But I don't think the singularity has arrived yet.
No. Well, I think no. Will we have the date in our calendars going forward? As in the Terminator universe, maybe. But I think we're there. Like it says, agent loops are still fragile across harnesses and models. There's a lot of really good links and references in this link. And also, big fan of Latent Space. They're great. They get my monthly couple dollars. They aggregate and have awesome discussions. So make sure to follow them. Here's a funny one. Well, that I actually saw from the hold on. Sorry, this is subject number 2. Amy Tam. Research is all that matters. And this is a good kind of hook quote, is when anyone can build for free, the differentiator is knowing what's worth building and whether it's buildable at all. So what do you think about that premise?
And she even mentioned the other article. I think this is spot on. I think that we're getting to the point now where things like Lovable are extending now to the point of Codex app. And we're abstracting out the code and we're operating at higher levels. I'm really interested in looking at project-driven development, where you operate more as a PM and you look at tasks and they get executed. I just saw a recent thing that OpenAI put out called Symphony, and I'll do a deep dive on that later. But basically, it's you drive the software development from a project, and you just kind of worry about what to do, and you don't have to worry about how to do it now, let alone actually doing it. So it is increasingly important to operate at a higher level of abstraction and to have that wisdom and have that taste of knowing what to do and would it work and what is interesting and what are some potential pitfalls. So having a lot of that strategic insight is a lot more valuable than being an engineer or a coder.
I agree to a point, and I'm what I would call a recovering academic. So I was in that research area, but I do think that there is my canonical example would be like Dropbox. In a sense, I always look back at the launch on the Hacker News post when Dropbox launched. I was like, this is nothing new, but packaging it up in a really nice and easy to use way was beneficial in and of itself. And so I kind of get the point of the article, and that it's saying, okay, we do need to understand what's at the frontier, but I don't think it says that all code is pointless if it's not new. But I don't know. I don't think that's the point it's making either.
Yeah, no, it's just kind of the commoditization of engineering, and that there is now greater value in insight and intuition and wisdom and taste. Taste has been kind of a maybe slightly overhyped buzzword over the last year, but it's kind of this ephemeral je ne sais quoi of like human insight that not only humans have, but only certain humans have. And it's kind of, I don't know, hard to define, but you know it if you see it. It basically alludes to having intuition and having wisdom of what direction to go in and what things are generally better than others. And I think that that's probably the last frontier of us as humans still providing value in these human AI collaborations.
Having that judgment, and it's that, I guess you could say, that gut feeling of like, this is going to work. This set of tools are going to work. I think humans are very good at, like, we don't have to have every single piece there, but you kind of have that. It's like in math when you're doing a proof, and you're like, I know I've got all the bits laid out. I don't exactly know how they fit together yet, but I know there's something in your head that's like, this, I have the collective set of facts to solve this problem. And there's that cool moment, or like when you're winning a board game and all of a sudden you're like, all right, I'm in the position. I haven't won yet, but I'm in my position. I know I just have to execute. Yeah, so I think I get what this is getting at here. And I do like how there's emergent patterns, and some of those emergent patterns are actually really old. Like the example, we're now building Tmux is getting a resurgence again, because we're using Tmux for one agent to control another is really handy. So like some of these Unix tools and some of this Unix philosophy of like build simple tools, and it used to be build simple tools and you chain them together, and now it's build simple tools and let the agent chain them together. All right, next one. Actually, this one is interesting. I don't know if you saw this. And I felt bad because I'm a Perplexity fan. Perplexity Computer made this demo of, check this out. You could use Claude Code and GitHub CLI inside Perplexity Computer. They found an open issue on OpenClaw, and they had it automatically fork the repo, make a bug fix plan, submit Claude Code, a plan to implement this, submitted a pull request via GitHub CLI. Looks good, right? And then reply from Peter Steinberger. Big no for spamming our repo with the slot PR, account banned. That would hurt.
They tried to ride the coattails of OpenClaw. OpenClaw is a big hype thing right now. We've gotten a lot of attention on our OpenClaw articles, and we are obsessed with OpenClaw too. So, of course, they're going for what is the flavor of the day. But if they actually followed OpenClaw from the beginning and understood the culture, they would realize that Peter is inundated with slop PRs. He is fighting hundreds of PRs a day, and amazing that he hasn't given up and just closed the thing down. I've seen other prolific developers and maintainers just saying, no, I'm not going to accept public contributions. We're just getting inundated with slop. So we've already covered this before of like, looking at that balance, but they just chose probably the worst project they could have to unleash some kind of a slop PR on. I saw there's the post on X has a community note as well saying,
this is it.
Yep.
Let's see. Misunderstood the problem. Closed as invalid by maintainers. Was not accepted. Made a fundamental error. Ouch. This is a bit of a. Hopefully, this is a lesson to all
marketing
of us.
fail.
This is a bad one. Don't do this. Don't do this. And I like Perplexity a lot. I'm rooting for them. So hopefully they can recover from this one.
I will say, just on the side, this is not a cheap plan. The Perplexity computer is available when you pay like $250 a month. And computer use is something that is needing to be democratized soon, but we're very early in the tooling for that.
I remember my very first vehicle that I purchased new, my payment was $179 a month. And so comparing that to $200 a month for Perplexity, I think I could have gotten a Volkswagen Jetta for that. But I think I'd rather have the $200. Well, that was a useful car in its day. All right. Next one. Services, the new software by Julian Beck. This is interesting. The next trillion-dollar company will be a software company masquerading as a services firm. You sent me this link. What's your take on this generally? I'll kind of scroll through as you're talking, get some of the main points out here.
Well, I said, this was related to the other articles on taste and research and talking about the commoditization of software products. And people are really concerned that SaaSes are going to fail because everybody can vibe code their own SaaS. And obviously people are oversimplifying the complexity that it is to mount a production grade system. But there is some truth to that. And so there's this idea of looking at judgment, looking at kind of high level reasoning, things that are hard to automate. But also, interestingly, looking at how we can abstract out what would be like a services offering into something that is automated via AI, instead of trying to have an AI written product, have an AI driven.
It'll be interesting. So
when looking at the financials there, just a couple lines down, it's interesting to look at. A company might spend just a couple lines down at the top. Yeah.
Oh, this.
A company might spend $10K a year on QuickBooks and $120K on an accountant. That is an order of magnitude difference. And so, now we're going to automate out not just the QuickBooks, but the accountant.
Well, I think it's interesting, especially this idea of like masquerading as a services firm. Having used Gastown, I've kind of gone into the Gastown rabbit hole a bit. And I feel like, okay, I could build software really fast. And, just whether it's Gastown or some other agent orchestration framework where you can launch a bunch of agents and use GLM5 or Kimi K2 so you don't bankrupt yourself. You can make software so fast. And I think for the people on the AI frontier, we know this, but maybe it hasn't trickled down into all of enterprise yet. So there's that opportunity to be a services firm, and behind the scenes, you are writing software really fast.
And it's interesting. We can get into the next point to move things along. There's the inverse thing that is still happening. Well, not the next thing. What happened to our list? Number 9, if we can skip around.
Yeah. Absolutely. This is Meta Ray-Ban. Got it. All right.
Yeah. So this is you may have heard of people saying AI is actually Indian. Some AI startups actually have call centers in India with people operating things that were supposed to be AI. Well, apparently Meta has done that with Ray-Bans in Africa, in Kenya. People are reviewing the video content from your Ray-Bans and the data annotating. And then they're saying, there's some whistleblowers saying, man, I'm seeing people naked in their bedrooms. There's this serious privacy violations. And Meta is just kind of sweeping it under the rug. And it's ridiculous that in the age where we're trying to automate human activity with AI, we're doing this thing that's supposed to be AI, and there's actually humans behind pulling the string on these puppets.
Interesting. Amazon had some of the issues with their Amazon Fresh stores where they had this idea of you could just walk in there, grab something off the shelf, and some sophisticated model was supposed to figure out that you had done that. But it turns out it was a lot of human validation of humans looking at security cameras. That's kind of, it goes back to the old Mechanical Turk, right? Is this an actual chess player, or is this a human pretending to be a robot? Which is kind of strange. Hopefully, you'd think that it's so much cheaper to use actual AI, but I guess lying and being fraudulent will always be part of this industry, part of any industry, I guess.
Yeah, it's really interesting to dovetail that with the other, I mean, I don't know. I think that's pretty egregious. And I don't know how many people have heard about this, but I'm definitely not going to get a Ray-Ban now. I was considering it earlier. Apparently, you can opt out of this, but people don't even know about it.
Well, okay, so it's trying to annotate the world around you. So it's like, oh, there's I don't know, what is it supposed to be doing?
Yeah, I guess people are reviewing footage for whatever reason that need a human, quote unquote, expert annotator or something, you know. But they got 30 employees there, several people who work at video, image, and speech annotation, and looking at live data, even live data annotation. Like this is kind of like people in a Waymo. Who maybe a Waymo gets stuck in an intersection and a human has to intervene and help it get unstuck. But at least they're not like literally driving the cars. It's ridiculous when you find out some of these friction points.
Wow, that is wild. All right, so especially be careful with those Meta Ray-Bans. I mean, I've tried one once. I'm not planning on getting one anytime soon. All right, let's go to number 5. Wang. You're gonna have to fill me in on this one. I'm not up to the gossip here, but I do like the memes of this. Meanwhile, Meta HQ.
Well, it's really funny, and we have several Meta-related things today. But there was some kind of a news coverage about Wang being sidelined because some new exec was being given control of AI training infrastructure, and that basically it was a soft firing, and they were taking all the power away from Wang, and that it was a way of Facebook saving face and not literally firing him, and a lot of conjecture, and then that like spread like wildfire. There's just a lot of amplification of signals. And then, somebody said, actually, maybe not, and I don't see anything official from Meta, and the Meta CTO, who purportedly was one of the people that Wang didn't get along with, replied and said, yeah, this is BS. So it was funny to see. Like, on the one hand, I think that maybe the public has been disillusioned with Meta Superintelligence Labs. And it is kind of ridiculous that Wang had, I think, like a $14 billion acqui-hire deal. And he worked in data annotation. Hey, just like the Ray-Bans, right? So he worked for a data annotation company. They didn't train models. It's unclear to a lot of people why he was put in that position as Meta's most highly compensated, high executive. And you look at the flop of Meta's AI models over the last year and a half, and people are disappointed. So I think that
Llama 4. What was it supposed to be? Llama 4 Mega or Behemoth?
Behemoth, yeah, it never came out. Yeah, and there was controversy around the Scout and the Maverick being kind of benchmarked and gamed, and like they had a different version released for the benchmarks. And in any case, it's interesting to see what's happening there. Apparently, he's play, and in fact, we can go to the next point. Meta did something interesting yesterday.
Oh yeah, all right. Number 6. This is a funny one. Meta acquires Maltbook, the AI agent social network that went viral because of fake posts. And this is kind of again, we used to pretend to be robots, and now humans are pretending to be AI. And Maltbook was accused of that, right? There's my agent wrote this blog post, and maybe it was actually just a human and trying to make it look like they had a snarky agent under their control. But yeah, Meta has acquired Maltbook. It had submolts, and the idea was your OpenClaws could go talk to each other and make fun of their human owners and all of that stuff. It's still going, and now Maltbook is joining Meta Superintelligence Labs.
That's Wang's division, yeah. I don't really understand the reasoning here. I mean, this had viral growth in its moment. I see extremely limited value in it and its current execution. I would never connect my OpenClaw to it. I would just think of it as context pollution and prompt injection risk. But people think it's entertaining to add their bots to some bot social network. And so even if it's just for entertainment value, it has some virality to it. Of course, some people proved that a lot of the adoption was actually artificial. And so I don't know. I think it's going to be another maybe overpriced acquisition. Financial details weren't disclosed, but I don't see it as a wise investment. So it's interesting to see them. Maybe just because it's a social network. We have a social network, let's integrate them. There could be something maybe for like synergy between Facebook and Maltbook. Maybe there's some interesting product directions that could go in, and I guess that could make sense. But Maltbook as it is, I see it as of limited value.
There was some conjecture on Hacker News, and I'm trying to figure out. Oh, here we go. This is Simon Willison, which I trust his voice. There was some conjecture that maybe it would be for agent verification, and they had some technology for verifying who owns an agent, but I don't think that went anywhere. I couldn't find anything credible about it. Here it is. Does anyone know what exactly Maltbook's technology is? I can't find anything. The only verification they have is OAuth to Twitter. Yeah, so it's strange. This is interesting. Zuckerberg was willing to burn tens of billions on a metaverse that no one wanted. Maybe this is just a play to stay relevant.
Yeah.
And this for this was back to the Wang part. They said, okay, it's Threads. No one has any idea who it is or why he's posting it. And that's, as much as Instagram tries to push you to Threads, once in a while I'll click over there. Oh yeah, this is trash. I'll go back.
Yeah, it's so annoying. Yeah. Well, to wrap up the meta theme, let's skip to number 8.
Yeah. All right. Here is Yann LeCun raises $1 billion to build AI that understands the physical world. So world models. Yann LeCun was Meta's chief AI scientist. He's a NYU computer science professor. Here is the X story. Advanced Machine Intelligence Labs raised $1 billion round. That is exciting.
Yeah.
So
part of the original article that was rumoring that Wang had been ousted mentioned among some of the challenges and failures of MSI, Meta Superintelligence, MSL, that Yann LeCun, one of the godfathers of AI, one of the people that did a lot of the foundational work, left because he didn't want to work under Wang, which when you look at the difference between those two characters and their personas and their track records, like if I was Yann LeCun, I wouldn't want to work under Wang. I would want to start my own lab. So that's what he did. And it's interesting to see that he's working on this, and it's interesting to see that he's getting so much support, obviously, because he's such a well-known figure, to get a $1 billion seed round. Like, I've never seen that before.
How much did the one who was the OpenAI CEO for a day? What was? Well, I'll look up in a second. But she got a big seed round on her project.
$2 billion, yeah.
But this is world models. Just to clarify for everyone, I used example. I remember when I was learning how to drive a stick shift, and first, I was learning from someone that, okay, when the left pedal is here, your right pedal is here, and if your heel is that way, and it was kind of like a very, here's the inputs, and I was getting it. And so I went to howstuffworks.com, looked up how a transmission worked, and I was like, oh, okay, I get it. I know what to do now. And seeing the clutch and the pressure plate and all that stuff. And that's like the world model of a manual transmission. So that's what the idea is LLMs. You can think about it as, here's a bunch of inputs. What should the outputs be? And then a world model is like, here's the causal physics. Here's how the thing actually works mechanically. So in a sense, it's kind of like philosophically better. And if it was constructed right, it might encode how to actually do stuff much better. I think the two are complementary. That's my world model story, is learning how to drive a stick shift. So
yeah, I mean, I think that this is a big new frontier. LLMs, I wouldn't say they're a solved problem, but for a large They've gotten us very far. Obviously, visual language models, VLMs, multimodal models like Gemini, or a lot of models now are multimodal, have a lot more power and the ability to analyze visual information, and they can be used for computer use agents, for browser use agents, to not just implement a user interface, but to actually drive a user interface. But the next level in that is moving out of the computer screen and having an agent be able to do more things beyond operate a mouse and a keyboard, to operate a robot, to operate in the real world. And for that, you need to model the world. You need to understand laws of physics. You need to understand environments. You need to understand entities that you interact with, your relation to space. And these are different things that need to be modeled, and they're very different from an LLM. So Yann LeCun's been famous for saying for a long time that LLMs are not going to get us to AGI, that for truly generalizable artificial intelligence, we need different kinds of information, and we need to operate in a different kind of space.
Yeah, here it is. I think with the internet amplification effect kind of plays on him sometimes. He's not some like anti-LLM doomer. He's more just like, it's not the end all be all to everything. And it's where they're going to be complementary, right? And that's part of why I think tools are so cool, is right. You can have an LLM that's processing all the dirty inputs of everything, and then when you need to use a world model, you can stick it in a world model. And I think some hybrid will probably be the best play going forward, right? Where you have world models for closed systems and LLMs or something like it handling all of the craziness around it.
I mean, I saw this coming up in San Francisco. Unfortunately, it's on site, and I wish I could go because it's something that I've been wanting to do, which is OpenClaw and robotics. Like, I would love to get my little mini-me into a physical embodiment, even if it's just sitting on my desk. Like, that's the next step in the anthropomorphization and in the ascribing of selfness to this entity, is to have it have a physical embodiment. And beyond that, if it could actually move and do things. I mean, you've seen, this is a whole topic for another episode, but there's these robots that can do housework for like $30,000 or something. I think we're going to see a lot of this merging of AI with robotics and things that are operating in the world and not just in the computer.
Yeah, we are closer. I think it's going to be, well, like the phrase about bankruptcy, it's very slowly and then all at once, right? It's going to be, right now we're at the very shallow part of the exponential curve. We're almost going to get to the part where it's like, okay, we're going to have all the right stuff to do that at scale. I think it's pretty to think about. All right, let's switch over to the next batch. I have run out of tabs on this window.
Let's go back to number 7.
Oh, number 7. That is right. GPT 5.4. We said we could have had 5.5 by the time we've done this. Okay, well, this is 6 days ago. GPT 5.4 in ChatGPT, also called ChatGPT Thinking and API and Codex. GPT 5.4 Pro. 5.3 just came out.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of annoying that you're sharing shorts of our clips talking about GPT 5.3 Codex when GPT 5.4 is already out.
Well, I use AI to speed up my pipeline, so this is going to be here right now. This will be relevant for like a week.
But some people have been posting about, hey, this is confusing, all these different models, and someone from OpenAI replied, yeah, shipping too fast, we'll fix, But so there's some interesting things about this model. One of the interesting things is it has unified this, these lines that had diverged a while back in between the coding model and the general model. Back when the first Codex model came out, when Codex first came out, and then they started coming out with these other Codex models that could be used in other agent harnesses, and they've been great. They have been phenomenal models. And GPT 5.2 Codex was one of, we already talked about this in the last episode, that was really good. And 5.3, half the token usage. But they were separate models. Now GPT 5.4 is combined the two, and there's some benefits and there's some drawbacks. One of the drawbacks is it's more expensive. It's quite a bit more expensive. But one of the benefits is it is way better at agentic tool use. And it is the first OpenAI model that can do native computer use. There were earlier like preview capabilities, but like there are new tools and tool actions available in GPT 5.4 to be used as a computer use agent. This is why I'm low on sleep. I was trying to get this to work. Amazingly, there isn't like a widely available harness. You need a harness to drive the model to actually operate your computers, and it's not something that OpenAI provides. I did eventually find one just as I was about to build my own from scratch. And it's interesting. There's some cross-platform abilities to use this in Linux and use it in Windows and use it in Mac, and they've been around for a while, and they've worked with other VLMs. But it will be interesting to see how it would work with this that has kind of native computer tool use capabilities. So this is not really mainstream yet. People aren't really doing this, and the tooling isn't really there yet. But what's going to happen is people are going to stop paying $250 a month for Perplexity computer when you have an open source harness and you can just pay a few tokens on GPT 5.4 and have the same thing, for cents on the dollar.
So the idea of computer use is to get to that. The idea is you have effectively a chat loop, but it's taking a screenshot and then it's parsing the UI just like you would. You'd say, okay, well, these set of pixels are a button. This set of pixels are a toolbar. This set of pixels is a hamburger menu. And it is parsing that UI using its image recognition capabilities. And part of what it means by harness is then, like when you're using a computer, you don't think I'm going to click on pixel 257 by 542. You're thinking, I want to click on this button. And you have to provide the right level of abstraction to the model so that you don't totally overflow its context, in 3 clicks, but you also effectively represent the UI as some combination of a textual description and a screenshot in a way that's reasonable to work with and fast. Like I'll say this, I could say it. I was using Amazon Nova Act for some LinkedIn automation. And the initial thought was, oh my gosh, am I going to get myself banned? I was like, no, it is so slow. I will never get banned because it's taking a screenshot, taking 10 seconds to figure out what to do with itself. There's no way in hell I'll ever get banned using Nova Act. But as this stuff gets faster, or, you run it in parallel, obviously. But that's what you mean by harness for this stuff, is to figure out like that abstraction layer behind the raw intelligence of the model and like what is button and how do I click it?
Yeah, and the harness that I did find has kind of those 2 layers of Kua computer, which has the primitives like click, drag, scroll, screenshot, type, etc. And then Kua agent, which then can do natural language, goal-oriented behavior, like click on that menu button and select that item.
Awesome. Well, we should be going on this one. I'm looking forward to seeing a computer use demo, and we'll probably do, I think, a deep dive on this before GPT 5.5 comes out. So I think that should be a good idea. We'll do a deep dive. But yeah, it's pretty cool. All this computer stuff. Actually, that's a good segue. I do show. Let's see. I think we have time for a demo. I'll give it a shot. I think I'm using called Firecrawl. Let me share the right tab first. Remove this. Okay. Stop screen here. Share screen. Window. Okay. This is Firecrawl. This is one of these software value adds that is having the right interface layers. The idea with Firecrawl is that you could actually start a browser and then you can connect your LLM, connect to it. So I'm going to go to another window here and I'm going to say, let's see, open up a Firecrawl session and browse the /r/local llama subreddit. So I'm typing this into an OpenClaw, or sorry, an open code session, which knows about Firecrawl because I've loaded it up into its context. So I've told it to do that, and it's going to launch a browser session, and then it's going to tell it what to do. So it's, see here at this window, and you can see here, it's actually, oh, there we go. This is why these things are hard to do. You've been blocked by network security. Never mind, I'm going to cut this demo because Reddit really doesn't want you scraping them. It's really annoying.
Oh yeah, they're pretty strict about that.
It's just so frustrating because they have so much good stuff there, and I don't want to read it by myself. Oh, there we go. Look, it figured out what to do with itself. So it's going to browse the local llama subreddit. But the cool thing is you kind of watch it do this in session. You get like what's called a live a URL where you kind of watch the tool working. Let's see if this works. It's still a little rough around the edges, but it's been a lot easier than doing something like Puppeteer or Playwright. And I could share what it did. Let me see if I can share this window real quick. Share here, this window here. I was using it to look at the Peloton site and scrape my workout data. But it's here. So it looked at local llama, and so I could say something like click on the Nematron article and tell me about the sentiment. So it's actually going to show here. It's going to click at E119. So that is the models. This is Firecrawl's representation of the page to the LLM, and that's their value add, is like that translation layer. And so computer use is in some ways a harder problem because it has to do it not just for the web but also for any UI you think of. It's a random thing and anything. All right, so that is Firecrawl. Let me get off of that. I think it's cool. Presenting window.
Cloudflare has been well known to combat AI bots, and they came out with some kind of an infinite labyrinth for crawlers to get lost in crawling kind of endless loops, and kind of a honey for AI crawlers. So it's really interesting that they came out with their own crawler. You'll see some of the replies on the post next were like, you have become that which you swore to destroy from Star Wars. But it's really interesting. Single API endpoint, and you get back what you really want from websites, which is you want it in Markdown format. You want that messy HTML. And people are like, okay, yeah, you keep block other people from doing it and do it yourself.
This is great. But I do get that it's okay. So on our CloudFix website, like I wanted that data in the hands of LLMs, but you didn't want it necessarily wasting time getting all the HTML that made it beautiful for humans, but added no value. And so you can add, markdown.txt, but then you have to work with WordPress to make sure that the markdown.txt or the .txt files were working. But then Cloudflare was kind of blocking crawls, and I was like, no, I want it to be crawled. Everyone, please take it. That was part of our AI optimization strategy, was get into the training set. So the AI says use CloudFix to save on AWS costs. So that I could see the idea of wanting your website to know how to be crawlable. And I think there was actually an interesting article on Hacker News about crawling Anna's archive, where they didn't want it to click every single link possible. They would say, hey, look, and they were trying to figure out how to tell the LLM, just download this torrent file. That's how you get our stuff. Don't crawl our site, just download this one torrent file. And so hopefully there's a way making your sites LLM friendly that crawlers will respect. And hopefully this is heading in that direction. Because if you're using Cloudflare, maybe you can make your site /crawl compatible, I guess. This is an interesting one. And I do love all the memes.
Yeah.
This is good. Okay. Number 12. Claude code review.
So yeah, we got 3 code review things to share. This one was released yesterday, and it's an agent team based review system that is separate from like their GitHub action integration, where you can say, hey, at Claude, review this or fix this. And it's supposed to be a lot deeper and a lot better. Not included in subscription. You have to pay for the tokens, and they estimate that it'll cost you maybe around $30, maybe $40 per PR, which I think is pretty pricey. You pay that for yes, per PR. Yeah. It's Anthropic.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Okay, I was surprised by by the next one, OpenAI's cost, Codex.
So maybe I exaggerated. 15 to $25 they say, right? So 25 was the baseline there, and no coincidence, OpenAI posts, hey, look at Codex code review. This is in direct response to this. Code review on Codex has been out for a while. It's not something that was released yesterday. OpenAI just wanted to post it in response to this and highlight, hey, this may cost you $1, and people think like, oh, $1 per run, or included in your ChatGPT Plus Pro. So I mean, that
ChatGPT Plus is like $8
on them, right?
Okay, yeah, $15 a pull request. So like I've probably made 5 pull requests on my left side monitor here during this conversation, and no way in hell would I spend $100. I'm just checking my gas town right now. Yeah, like literally, I've had 5 pull requests go through. No way would I want that. I think that's ridiculous.
So that's why OpenAI says, hey, you could pay $1 or it's free. It's included with your ChatGPT subscription, just as a comeback. They don't have to mention Codex code review. Of course, again, Anthropic said this is supposed to be better than the GitHub action that they themselves have. But at that price point, it's ridiculous. Not only that, I don't see that there was an easy way to say, hey, I want to have Claude code review this PR because it's a really important one. No, it's more like you enable it for your organization and it'll automatically run for all your PRs. I may be wrong, but that was the impression that I got. And so kind of ridiculous. And we can go on to the next point, which is, all of this may be completely pointless.
Or you could do it yourself. Okay, this is an interesting one. I don't know if I agree with all the points in this, but let's dive into it. So how to kill the code review.
So yeah, there's 2 main points here. One is, if you're having Codex do a code review on your branch, on your PR, like you don't need to trigger it through GitHub actions and kind of consume actions credits, have all that infrastructure behind it. You could just have another session of Codex, say it has the same model intelligence, say, hey, review this, before you submit the PR, kind of upstream. That kind of makes sense. It's just a different interface. But the other thing is, there are some blind spots. There are some limitations. So it's just kind of like having LLMs grade themselves. It's like you expect an LLM to catch its own errors if it's messing up. There's some truth to that. This idea of, fresh eyes and, whether, this is really the way forward, or if we have to maybe reimagine the whole concept of a code review and look at other ways of injecting quality control and improving quality.
So I disagree with the fresh eyes point in the sense that if it's a code review prompt, you're shifting the attention mechanism to some other place, right? Your dev prompt is get this thing done. And then your code review prompt is, did I do it right? Or what happened? What did I end up doing? And so even though it's like the same model.
They're talking about post-PR review specifically.
But I agree. But even if it's the same, another agent, it doesn't have the same blind spots, even if it's the same model, because you're prompting it differently and you're shifting the spotlight or it's got different tools. So I kind of disagree with this point, but I agree with the greater point of the reviewing the intent, because we've all seen agents that didn't do what it said it was going to do. And so I agree with this part 100%, which is, did your code answer the question? And using the almost something, the GitHub issue, or in Gastown language, the bead, whatever is your source of here's what I told you to do, and something that says, did you do it? I like that idea a lot.
But so it's really interesting to be looking at something like this, saying, I like that graphic above there, and that's the summary of all these things. Yeah, so you've got all these different layers of protection there, and building trust and ensuring quality. And this is interesting. This adversarial verification, I saw something related to that, a skill called a stress test. Acceptance criteria is kind of what Ralph Wiggum methodology is based on. And so I think there's a lot of wisdom in all this. And then shortly after this is published, Anthropic launches a $25 a PR code review tool. So I don't know how much traction it's going to get, but I don't see it being very sustainable.
I'm still shocked at the price. That's like, come on, we get it, but no way. I do like the idea of an adversarial review, right? So thinking, okay, not just how do I do this right, but how can I use this wrong? And I think I want to close with, in terms of the most adversarial usage, I want to close with a good meme. We had some great memes today. This is adversarial usage. This one.
This is a square. Can you guess which spot that goes?
The square.
Yes. I've seen this video.
It goes in the square hole.
Yes.
And how about this rectangle? That one
Also the square.
that goes in there too. Up next, we've got this thin rectangle.
The thin
Can you guess
rectangle.
where that goes?
The thin rectangle.
That's right. It goes in the square hole. And up next, a cylinder.
The circle.
I think that goes in
The circle.
the square hole. Now, we've also got this semicircle right here. Do you see a slot that would fit
The semicircle.
semicircle?
The semicircle.
That's right. It's the square hole.
That is adversarial review. Not how can your code go right, but what happens if you try to go it wrong. That's where you get stuff like, is this code idempotent when I asked it to be?
There's here, let me share the skill I found. It looks pretty interesting. It's exactly that. It's an adversarially stress test, a technical plan. Pretty interesting. Extract and decompose, verify via search, identify what needs a POC, get approval for POCs, execute the POCs, walk through findings. It basically autonomously creates experiments to prove or disprove assumptions. A very interesting skill.
That is cool. I like
Yeah, and one of the things that was interesting here was they mentioned the task tool. They also mentioned some other tool. I don't find where they did it, but one of the things that I didn't like was that explicit mention of the tool name, because it was the Claude Code specific tool. Yeah, this ask user question. There was another, here we go, use ask user question. And these are, harness specific tools. I did a little research on that. And it turns out that we've got a bunch of different harnesses with different categories of tools, and they all have different names. And some harnesses have them missing, and others, have different ones. It's a fascinating world that I hadn't taken a deep dive into yet, but this is an interesting thing when you actually start to understand the tools in your harness and the right skills to reference them directly. But then that takes away from the portability of skills that are supposed to be universal across harnesses. So
this looks like the start of a really good blog post.
I've been wanting to publish on this, but just trying to figure out what context to put around it. It took a lot of work to pull this together.
Awesome. Well, I think we are just at 1 hour. I think we both need to wrap this one up. There's been a lot of coverage. So hopefully the 5.4 announcement. I've AI-ified all of my pipeline, so I'll get that out before 5.5 comes out. So
I will say, I used the Nemotron Super that came out today. We had a custom deployment on Fireworks that we're playing with, and it is crazy fast. I got close to 500 tokens per second. And it's unreal to be working in open code, and I type something, and then like where did it go? Because there's already a wall of response before I can even blink. That is amazing. Limited.
Are you using that on Open Router, or where are you using it?
Fireworks, custom deployment.
Fireworks,
so
okay.
You can use it on Open Router. I think through Fireworks Battle. We're trying a new like enterprise Fireworks account. Not only do they have APIs deployed, but you can deploy a model that is not yet available via API. And this was like a 4 GPU deployment. It was like $36 an hour. But when you're getting 500 tokens per second, compare that to Cerebrus pricing, that's a deal. Unfortunately, some of the tool calling was not that great. It messed up on like changing status for linear issues. It had a hard time figuring out that it had an MCP server, and I had to have GLM5 step in. So I think it's maybe an interesting tool as part of a multi-model orchestration workflow, but really a delight to work on something that is that quick.
That's I have to check that out. Maybe let me know later if you have an API key. All right, cool. All right, everyone. Thank you for attending. My my OpenClaw is nudging me that I need to get to the gym. That I told it hold me accountable, and it is doing it. So I've got a nudge from OpenClaw. So Steve, it's Wednesday, and you haven't broken a sweat yet. So I gotta go. Have a good one, everyone. We will see you next time. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.